Hi, I'm Chris Burrell, President of the Magic City Bar Association. Thank you for attending our Social Distancing CLE series. We've got some great information brought to you by great attorneys and judges. We know that you'll get a lot out of it. After the CLE, be sure to fill out the evaluation form and attest that you attended virtually so that you can get credit with the State Bar. Again, thanks for being here, and we'll now start the CLE. All right, good afternoon, everybody. That was kind of weird. The first CLE we did this morning, somebody else was the moderator. So when I did that little video, it kind of threw it to them, but now it's kind of weird for me to throw it to myself. So that was kind of weird, but I'm glad we got that out the way. It is great to see everybody on this morning or this afternoon. We got a great panel lined up. We have Gerald Brooks from Serious Injury Lawyers, Ms. Ruby Davis from the Davis Law Firm, April Collins from Collins Law. And we got a very special guest, Ms. Rashida Reese from Rebirth Marketing. So we're gonna have a expert little section as well. Dan Crane is supposed to be here as well, but I have not seen Dan yet. So in the interest of time, we wanna go ahead and get started. We don't wanna delay anything. So what I'm gonna do first is we're gonna just ask everybody to start off with some introductions, and I'm gonna go to Ruby first. Oh, Ruby, you got to unmute yourself.
Is that better?
There you go.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. I am Ruby Davis, the founder of the Davis Law Group. I specialize in bankruptcy and personal injury. I'm also running for judge. I hope to have your support on November 3rd, and I'm excited to be here and share.
All right, thanks, Ruby. Appreciate it. Gerald, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, first, thanks, Chris, and thanks to the Magic City Bar for having this event and allowing me to be a part of it. Hi, I'm Gerald Brooks. I'm one of the co-founders of Serious Injury Law Group, where the name says it all.
Okay, cool. Ms. April Collins.
Hello, everyone. I'm April Collins and founder of Collins Law. I practice primarily personal injury, and I tell people all the time, although I've been licensed for 10 years, I've just been practicing for 5. So excited to be here. Thank you so much, Chris, for inviting me.
Thank you. And Rashida Reese.
Hello, I'm Rashida Reese, owner of Rebirth Marketing and Consulting, where we help elevate brands of our clients. I've been in the marketing industry for over 16 years, and I'm happy that I'm able to participate in this panel today. Thanks.
Awesome. All right, well, once again, I want to thank all the panelists for being here. We really appreciate you guys. Can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear the panelists okay? All right, cool. All right, so what we're gonna do is, what I thought I'd like to do is just kind of have everybody share a little bit about their own marketing experiences. It's kind of funny, like literally, I'm friends with all these people, but as I'm driving around town, I'm seeing them on billboards, I'm seeing them on television, seeing them all over social media. So I couldn't think of a better group of people to get together to kind of share their experiences. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the panel. I'm gonna ask to start off with Gerald. Gerald, if you would just kind of give us a couple of minutes to just share your experience about marketing, things that you've seen, things that you try to do with your firm.
Sure. It's weird because I don't really consider myself much of a marketer, but I will share as best I can. Just with my experience with marketing, often when people think of marketing, I've been guilty of it too. You think of TV, billboards, radio, print, things of that nature, and we do all those things. But one of the areas where I find the most success is marketing to people on a personal level, family members, friends, clients, former clients. Some of the best cases I get are from people that know me outside or that know me on a personal level. And I found the best success in marketing to clients and former clients especially. I've been told it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So I never want to let a client who has a good experience forget about us and forget that they've had a good experience with us. And some of the things that we've done to kind of make that happen, something as simple as on Mother's Day, sending all female clients Mother's Day cards and things of that nature, or if it's their birthday, send a birthday card, just to kind of let them know that we're thinking of them, and kind of a reminder that if they ever need us, or if anybody else that they know ever needs us, that we're here. And of course, we do the TV, we do the, we've done billboards, we've done radio, we've done print, we've done it all. But honestly, and all those things are important, but honestly, that's where I've found the most success. I think Chris is muted for some reason. He's back.
Okay, sorry about that, Gerald.
Okay.
I'm still kind of learning the Zoom and some of the little tips and tricks.
Hey,
Yeah,
me
all
too.
right. Thanks for sharing that, Joe. Appreciate it. April, let's hear from you. Tell us about some of the things that you've done as far as marketing and things that you've seen, things that have worked for you.
I agree with everything Gerald said. I don't consider myself a great marketer. I'm still learning as well, but as far as I've done TV, billboard, social media is probably my bread and butter. I love, I don't like social media, I would say. I don't like to have to post all the time and engaging, because it takes time. But a lot of my target audience is on social media for the most part. The people that I'm targeting, the people that I believe will hire me, they see me on social media. And so they feel like they know me, I guess, from social media, because I don't only post legal things or things about the law. I just post about my life, my family, just things that I'm doing. And I think that, again, that helps them to kind of feel like they know me a little bit more. One of the things that I will say, and this goes kind of a little bit beyond the marketing aspect, but I feel like you can be a great marketer, but once you get them in the door, what are you doing? So you have to make sure that you have a great intake process as well, so that everything is seamless when they call you. So that's something that I would say, but I think social media for me has been one of the big things. Well, I had a billboard too, and one of the things that I do, although I'm here in Birmingham, I feel like a lot of my audience is in North Alabama, because I'm from North Alabama and they know me, I'm family. And so I put a billboard up there in my hometown, and oh my goodness, it was a big deal for them, because they feel like, they haven't seen a Black attorney on a billboard in Athens, Alabama. So that really, really helped. But I don't have the billboard up anymore, because I think it did what it did for the moment. But again, I think social media, everybody should be on it, and everybody should be engaging your audience.
Gotcha. Thanks, April. You made a great point about your social media and people feeling like they actually know you, because you don't just post stuff that's about legal topics. So that's a really great point. And that's something I think we're going to come back to in a little bit. But before we do that, I want to hear from Ruby. Ruby, can you share with us your experience and tell us what you've done as far as marketing and things that you found that work and don't work?
Okay, so practicing law was a second career for me. And so I met with several attorneys who told me different things that I must do and things that I shouldn't do. And so marketing and advertising was something they told me that was mandatory. I had to budget for it. And so I, like April, took to social media because it was free. I was able to have a longer reach to reach different clients, different target audiences. And I went from social media to cable television, which was much less expensive. And from cable, I went to local television, which was more expensive, but it had a broader reach. And from cable, I went to billboards, as well as paper, print, magazines, and things like that. And the first question we ask at our intake process is, how did you hear of us? Because I'm trying to count my dollars to make sure what I'm paying for is working. And I can say the billboard was very effective, but social media and word of mouth was the most effective as far as receiving clients in the door. Then of course, if you do a great job, I've experienced a lot of repeat clients as well. But social media is definitely something I encourage young lawyers to do, because it's free and you have a broader reach with the options to share. And people actually inbox me even today to represent them via social media. And so I would definitely say budgeting for advertising is a must for any young lawyer out on their own.
Okay.
Can I say something, Chris, back
Absolutely.
behind what Ruby said about social media? One of the things I think that we have to realize as well is, you know, social media can be good, but it also can be bad. Like, watch what you're posting, you know, because your clients are watching or your potential clients are watching. And I hate to say this, but, you know, it's disturbing sometimes to see lawyers post certain things on Facebook or whatever, whether it be like what they have on or clothes, you know, you just have to watch what you're posting because people are watching you. And I think that they're developing, you know, what they think of you and your practice based on what you post.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
And Chris, I just wanted to say, one of the things as far as social media and marketing, like one of the genius things that I've seen is your lawyer moments. They crack me up, man, and it's an excellent marketing tool. It's genius. So kudos, and to just kind of amen something that April was saying as far as intake and marketing. Marketing starts from the time they make the call, as far as marketing to clients, from intake to calling them, see how they're doing, to making sure that they're happy with the process, feel like you care. That whole time you're helping the client, but you're also marketing to that client. And I just want to kind of amen what April was saying about marketing and intake, all being kind of one and the same.
Absolutely. And actually, I want to join in on that point as well. I think that's a great point that April made. And so let's kind of shift gears and talk about that a little bit. Marketing, I think, is only half the battle. So once you get people in the door, how do you make a good customer service experience? Joe, can you go ahead and talk about that a little bit since you're already up?
Sure. It starts with intake. You need to make sure that they have a pleasant experience during that intake process, that they leave that phone conversation or that electronic exchange feeling comfortable with you and your firm. And for us, we have a couple ways that we handle intakes. We use an answering service in addition to having someone in-house who's dedicated to intake. I didn't start out being in a position where I was able to pay somebody just for intake. That's your only job, is intake. But fortunately, we're at the point now where we can. And it's just part of making sure that, again, one, as Ruby said, you're trying to count your dollars. So you want to make sure that money you're getting, that when somebody calls, that you handle the call appropriately. You spend a bunch of money, get a call, and you handle the call poorly, it's wasted money. It's a wasted opportunity. So a lot of times intake gets overlooked, but it's just as important, if not more important, than the dollars that you're putting into the marketing. Because again, if you get the call and you mishandle the call, you haven't gained anything. So to the extent that you can have someone whose job is just intake, I think it's really, really helpful. While your staff, initially we had everybody sharing their responsibility, paralegal, secretaries, receptionists, and a lot of balls were getting dropped. It was no consistency. And that's something that I highly recommend, in addition to, if you're not able to do that, perhaps looking into getting an answering service to assist you in that process.
Okay. Ruby, can you expound on that same topic? Tell me, what are some of the things that your firm does to make a good customer service experience, so that once you get people in the door, you know, they continue to come back to you and continue to spread a good message about the service that you provide?
So when I started out, Chris, you know, my firm is the Davis Law Group, and I was the group. I was answering the phone, I was secretary, I was attorney, I was paralegal, because as Gerald mentioned, I couldn't afford anyone. And so for the first 6 months, I did everything. But I noticed when I started to not call people back in a timely manner, I missed them. They went on to other attorneys. And so once I did, you know, have enough in the budget to afford staff, I made it very clear that this is a boutique firm. We're very hands-on. Let's adopt the Chick-fil-A method, because every time the phone rings, that's how we all eat. That's how we get paid. That's how we meet, you know, quotas and our goals each month. And so my staff is well aware that when that phone rings, we have to treat this person with the same amount of respect and customer service that we want when we call different businesses. And so luckily I have clients that are very forthcoming. I've had staff members that wasn't as friendly, and my clients will call me. They'll message me, they'll text me and say, who's answering your phones? They don't represent you well. And then that's an issue that I have to attack, because there goes money out of the door, as Gerald mentioned, because I'm paying for the phones to ring. That was another thing that I would emphasize to my staff. These phones are not ringing because they want Ruby Davis. There are several attorneys. This is a very competitive field. So if the phone rings, this is our opportunity to make some money, to have an impact. So we have to be very pleasant, even if we can't help them. We have the Birmingham Bar Association number on speed dial. We constantly giving that number out so that we can refer them on to the next best attorney in town. We don't just dismiss someone saying, hey, we can't help you, goodbye. You know, so we go out of our way to make sure we provide great customer service, even if it's not our area of expertise, because again, the phone is only ringing because I've got this billboard up, which is very expensive. And so if my staff don't understand that, their relationship doesn't really work out well, because we have to have the same vision, because there's only one goal, and that's to please the customer. That's what I try to do at the Davis Law Group.
All right, good. Thanks for sharing that, Ruby. You made an excellent point, and that's something that I always try to do. When you talked about referring people to other attorneys, we get calls all the time about custody and divorce and things like that we don't handle. But I make it a point to call them and actually talk to the other attorney and say, hey, I spoke to this attorney. They're very interested in helping you with your case. And that makes the client feel like, you know, they can trust you and that they trust the recommendation. So not only does it edify the person you're referring them to, it also helps you build a sort of relationship as well, so that they'll come back and say, hey, I remember that last attorney that you referred me to. They did a good job for me. But Tim, if you handle this type of case, and it may be a criminal defense case or a civil rights case, something that we do handle. So that's a very good point about still making sure that you refer them and, you know, still make that establish that connection. So great point, Ruby. I want to bring Rashida in on the conversation a little bit here. I'm going to brag on Rashida for just a moment, y'all. We started working with Rashida earlier this year. My firm did. But when things started happening with the protest and with the Mass City Bar and all of those things, I brought Rashida in on some of that stuff. And she has done an exceptional job for us as far as help get out the word for what we're trying to do, making sure that we stay in the news and the media. And it's garnered a lot of attention for the Magic City Bar. So I think everyone on here who's a member, we need to give her a big kudos for the work that she's done there. But that's why I felt it was very important for us to have her on this call. Not only does she have a wealth of experience in all forms of media, but I thought that she could bring a lot of valuable information to this. So I'm going to bring Rashida in for just a moment. And Rashida, if you would kind of introduce yourself and what your company does, and tell us some of the things the basics that you think someone needs to know as they begin to venture into marketing.
Sure. So again, Rashida Reese, Rebirth Marketing and Consulting. I think that you guys have all had very excellent points in terms of what should you do when you are trying to market your firm. The one thing that I will say is, you're right, April, perception is reality. So when you are posting on Facebook, you definitely have to be careful in terms of people really view you as an elite person and you have to understand your role there. But I think for an attorney, no one knows that they need an attorney until they have that moment that they need an attorney. And so it is important that you kind of follow the journey of making people know who you are by being aware. So what I think about the buying cycle of an attorney, people have to become aware of you. They have to find out some more information through engagement and researching your firms. And then they make a decision on if they're going to use your services. And I think you have to continue that cycle for everyone that you interact with from a marketing perspective. That's why billboards are important, because you remember someone's name when you see a billboard, or you see them on television. It's a broad reach, but you remember their name and their slogan. So being memorable, being visible, and having a message that connects with your followers, because I think that that's where you really start to get additional referrals, additional recommendations. And if you're doing a good job and you're doing what you're supposed to do, people will come back to you time and time again and tell others.
Cool. Now, Rashida, I want to ask a follow-up question to that. I'm looking over the room and I see that we have some younger attorneys here, people who may want to start advertising and things along those lines. Let me ask you this. for someone who wants to start advertising, would you recommend that they just start with a bang, like, you know, go borrow $10,000 and start putting money out there? Or do you recommend that they kind of start with a little bit of a budget, save up and get a running head start with it?
So I would say that you definitely want to understand your foundational pieces, right? Do you have a website? Because again, as we talked about intake, when someone is interested in your services, if you don't have a website, again, that's a conflict that causes friction because they can't find out the information that they need to find. So I think that it is important to understand what your foundational pieces are. A website, social media sites. Are you on the directories? Are you paying to be a part of the things that will help at least give you some brand recognition? So the first thing I would do is just get those things in order. And I know that that sounds, you know, it's kind of conflicting, but you have to have your house in order before you bring people to your house. It's like you got to have furniture, stove, and things like that. So I think that would be the first important thing, is just to get the foundational pieces together. And then I think it is important to start branding yourself. And, you know, we talked about social media. Social media to me is a little bit more targeted than using a broad stream like a television or radio. But it's very important to use all of those things in tandem. Because if you want people to interact with you, they have to know your name, and then they'll start doing their research to engage with you.
Okay, good point. All right, I want to shift gears for just a moment. I want to bring Gerald back. Gerald, I noticed that serious injury, you have multiple locations. You're in Birmingham, Montgomery, probably some other areas that I'm not even aware of. What advice would you give to someone who wants to advertise in different cities or different markets?
Well, it's definitely a useful tool to expand your audience and your potential clientele by having multiple offices and marketing in multiple areas. I just say, kind of piggyback on what Rashida was saying as far as infrastructure. In order to do that, you need to make sure that you have the infrastructure in place in order to handle those calls that you, or those engagements that you get. Because again, if you put the money into marketing in multiple markets and you're not equipped to deal with those calls or to meet those clients' needs, ultimately you're doing yourself a detriment, because instead of building a positive brand, you're building negativity associated with your brand, because those clients who have a bad experience are going to tell other people about their bad experience. So I definitely think having an office in more than one area can be a very real positive, but it comes with increased challenges as well. That's more staff that you have to oversee. That's more of your budget that's going to overhead with multiple offices, 2 power bills, 3 power bills. It really adds to overhead. And I just recommend that before doing that, you make sure that you have your infrastructure in place. But definitely, we found success in not limiting ourselves to a single market, trying to market to all communities in Alabama and elsewhere.
Cool. I want to ask that same question to April with just a slight variation. Now, April, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, as you were saying, you get a lot of business from North Alabama because you're from that area. But do you have an office in that area or no?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And
okay. All right. So how do you handle the fact that you get a lot of business from other areas and still been able to service those clients?
So I guess just a little insight into my practice. So when I started practicing 5 years ago, I had just had a baby, 2 months old, and then I had another one like a year later. And so I practiced basically from my basement. That's how I started my firm. For the first 3 years, I was in my basement. And I had a virtual office that I could go to if I needed to meet with clients, which I rarely did because I had a system in place, a virtual system, where I could send everything to my clients virtually. They could log into my practice management system, remotely. And I still have that now, even though I have a physical office. Most of the time, I don't meet with my clients at all because they are mostly in North Alabama. And so everything we do is streamlined, it's virtual, it's seamless. And I think that also provides for a great experience for them because they don't have to worry about, well, getting to my office. What about parking? What about this? What about that? They can do it all from the comfort of their homes.
Okay, Cool. Ruby, I want to come back to you for a second. We know that Ruby is currently running for district court judge of Jefferson County. I'm gonna plug my friend there and tell everybody that they need to go vote. I hope I'm not in any type of violation for making that plug, but if not, hey, it is what it is. I think she's the best candidate. That said, Ruby, how do you balance some of the implications between race? I mean, I know that running for a judge has raised your profile to some degree, but how do you balance the fact that you're running as a candidate with still trying to advertise and market yourself to get business to sustain yourself until the election and ultimately you take over the judgeship? How do you balance those two things?
Thank you so much for that plug. But honestly, Chris, it was very difficult trying to maintain a campaign schedule along with my calendar for court. And so what I learned as a candidate as well as a lawyer, I had to become more of a person that delegate, which was kind of difficult for me because I'm hands-on with my clients from start to finish. And I'm also hands-on with what's going on in my personal business as far as the campaign goes. So one thing that I had to do was find a balance as far as being able to campaign, being able to speak at churches, being in the community, also being able to meet deadlines with the courts, as well as meeting with clients, trying to drum up business. And I can honestly say during the campaign, I was so busy, the business was working out just fine because I have a great staff, I have a great team. But after the election, like immediately after the March 3rd election, my business slowed down tremendously because of COVID-19. For about 2 or 3 months, I did not get any new cases. And I guess because of the shelter in place, we didn't have people out having car accidents or needing to file bankruptcy. So it was scary for me for about 2 or 3 months. And so luckily last month, especially this month, things began to pick up for me because the campaign is kind of suspended right now because of COVID. So I'm able to market and retain the clients I have and also get new clients. And kind of like April now, I'm going out to homes. I'm meeting people where they are now because of COVID and things like that, whatever it takes. Even if it's a settlement, I'm driving to their jobs or to their homes, wherever they are to, make sure that they feel like I'm here and I'm accessible to them. But it was very challenging.
Okay. All right. Another cool thing that I'm not sure if everybody on here is aware, but two of our panelists are also authors. That would be Ruby and April. And I have both of their books. If you don't have the books, you need to go ahead and get them and you need to read them. They are very, very good. And I'm not just saying that I literally have read it. I haven't finished April's yet, but I have it on my desk. Hopefully I'll finish it this weekend. But that said, I'm sure that there's a lot of publicity that comes along with that. And since Ruby's already up, we'll start with Ruby. Ruby, how did you, or how were you able to kind of capitalize on some of the extra attention that you may have gotten from releasing your book? And how were you able to translate that into marketing yourself as a lawyer?
So when I released my book, I received a lot of support from the community. I'm actually born, raised, and educated right here in Birmingham. So this is home for me. At the actual release, so many people came out. And I strictly plugged that through social media. And so many people read the book, they provided feedback. And in my mind, any contact with anyone is a potential client, whether it's bankruptcy or personal injury. And so the book just gave me a different audience. In short, I was a teenage parent. I was a young mother. I went to law school at night while working full time. And it surprised me how many women, how many people in general could relate to my story. And because of that relatability, people wanted me to represent them just because they found me to be more relatable, or I overcame these things that they didn't think other people had in common with them. So that put me in a different category as far as me being available to represent people. And so even today, if they're not talking about the book, they're talking about the campaign. And if they have both, they seem to be more willing to allow me to represent them. And so marketing that book really put me in a different category with the community because I was very transparent with my personal story and the things that I overcame. And it really helped me become more relatable with my hometown.
Gotcha. Same question, April. How were you able to kind of translate the marketing of the book, or were you able to translate that into additional business for the law firm as well?
Yes, so echoing everything that Ruby said, I think that my book, it's similar. I think we have kind of similar stories. My book is called Only the Strong Thrive, but it also chronicles like my journey from becoming a teenage mother to, you know, living with having a single father, the things that he was doing out in the streets, and, you know, just it's a really good book, but it all comes around to this victory that I feel like I've overcome the things that I grew up and the challenges. And so sometimes when I get phone calls, the first thing people will say is, I read your book, you know? And so I think that helps, again, the relatability. They feel like they know me. Some of them have had the same struggles, and they're proud because some of them have had the same struggles, but weren't able to overcome, or at least get to where they see that, you know, I've gotten to. And so, you know, that encouragement for them, that motivation, I think they feel like they know me. And another thing that I did with my book was a marketing piece for my book was, you know, the books that I sold, I was donating a portion of that to the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club had it made an impact on my life that I'll never be able to forget. And so I donated a huge portion of the funds to the Boys and Girls Club. And so I think giving back to the community in that way also helped to, you know, help people to realize, you know, hey, she's out here, she's doing this for the community. We love her book. We want her for our attorney, you know. So it all worked out really well. And I learned a lot just by marketing the book. I learned a lot about marketing for my firm.
Cool. All right. Thank you, April, for sharing that. I'm going to go back over to Rashida for just a moment. Rashida, I know that you know, you deal a lot with social media and things like that. We had a question from the group. Can you talk a little bit more about the effectiveness of social media paid campaigns and how those work and how effective they are to someone who's trying to advertise on social media?
Sure. So yes, we handle social media campaigns and targeted advertising via digital. And I think that the most important thing is defining your audience. And once you define your audience, continue to check your analytics, because sometimes things get stale. So it's about renewing your ads, not just boosting posts, but also having targeted ads to your audience, telling people what you do. And I think the other thing about social media is people want to see the real, the authentic you. So you have to have a good balance between who you are, what you do, and call to actions. So that would be my recommendation, is review your analytics quite frequently. We review analytics every 2 weeks. We change our ads up every 30 to 60 days, just based on what the call to action is. And it's important to have someone that can read those analytics and kind of give you the data behind it. There's science, and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, they're always changing. So in order for you to stay up with the trends, you have to have someone to kind of help and guide, direct you to the best way to read your analytics and know what the right things to do as you move forward when you make an adjustment.
Okay. Now, piggybacking off of that question, I'm going to go back over to April. April, you mentioned earlier about not just posting legal things on your social media. And I told her we would come back to that topic. All right. So Rashida just kind of gave us her opinion about the paid advertisements and boosted posts and things like that. April, can you kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that you would post on social media that you think are a little bit more organic and that help people kind of get to know you a little bit better? And have you found that translates into people wanting to use you as their attorney?
So of course, I post on my personal page, probably not as much as I should. And I have a business page that I post to. So on my legal page, I will post just kind of tidbits about certain things, you know, car accidents, statistics, safe driving habits, things like that. I don't always post about hire me, you know. I think that we have to kind of give people a wide variety of things that we post. And then on my personal page, I sometimes post things about, you know, Collins Law, but mainly about my family, things that I'm doing, photos. You know, I've seen even on social media on my legal page, photos of just me being, I mean, those get like a lot of traffic. And I think people like to see the visual rather than just words. They like to see you, and they like to see how you interact with people and with your clients and things like that.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna come back over to Gerald. We got a very interesting question for Gerald here. Nina Spear, who's actually going to be moderating our second panel, so make sure you come back for that one. Nina Spear says that she's seen your business ever since she was a bit younger. And she wants to know what's the story behind Serious Injury Law Group. So Gerald, can you share with us how you all came to that name?
Sure. I went out, I came out of law school. I went to a defense firm, did that for about 5 years, and then went to a plaintiff's firm, Thomas Meeting Skills and C, that is now defunct. They've gone their separate ways. In 2012, I went out on my own. I decided that I never really wanted to work for anyone else, again, based on the experiences that I had, and didn't really have an interest in doing defense work anymore. So I went out on my own, and about a year after that, I joined with my current law partner, Charles James, and another gentleman.
Say Chuck James. I don't know about who Charles James is.
Chuck. Joined with Chuck. And another guy, Joe Hubbard, former state representative, and later Wallace Mills, an attorney in Montgomery. And we had multiple name changes in that time period due to partners coming and leaving. And Chuck and I decided that once it was just me and him, that at some point we may add a partner, we may not, but we wanted to have some consistency in our marketing. We didn't think it was a good look for the name to change every other year. And so we decided to take our names out of it, take our ego out of it to a certain extent. There is no Brooks, Hubbard, and James. There is no Brooks and James, a Serious Injury Law Group. So that's how the name was born. Just wanted to have a consistent message, a consistent consistency in our marketing, and didn't want it to be based on our last names. And what we do is personal injury. What we do is 100% personal injury, and just kind of brainstorming. Our initial tagline with it was Brooks, Hubbard, and James was serious injury, serious results, and it just kind of grew out of that.
Okay, that's a pretty interesting story. I actually kind of wondered how the name came about as well. I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory what you guys do, but I was just wondering how you settled on that name. So thanks for answering that question for us.
Yeah, we backed into it.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We backed into it.
Back into it. Okay, well, look, I'm going to ask this question just for everyone in general. This was a question Lou Willie asked. He said, can someone discuss the need for bar approval for social media ads? And everyone here advertises, so we know we have to, there's some things we generally need to run by the bar to kind of get their approval on. So can anyone jump in and discuss social media ads and the need for bar approval for those?
I'll say, out of an abundance of caution, initially I would always use the disclaimer. As far, everyone knows the disclaimer that you must use anytime you're advertising or anytime it appears that you're giving legal advice. So with every social media post, to be safe, I would say always use your disclaimer. Personally, now that I'm more comfortable, I don't necessarily use the disclaimer every single time. But as far as certain things that you're advertising or guaranteeing, you will need the bar approval. So I have the bar on standby a lot of times when I get ready to do certain things just to get their approval. But just to be safe, always use the disclaimer.
Okay.
Chris, and I would say in particular, when you're doing television and radio, definitely use this disclaimer. I think that that's been the standard. With social media, you can get away with it a little bit more. You have a little bit more leniency, but if you are, you can never say that you're better than another lawyer, of course, so you have that disclaimer. If you're asking for business, I would recommend using it.
I was just trying to get it downloaded. So
okay. All right. Thanks for that, for adding that, Rashida. I want to kind of go back and piggyback on something that Ruby was saying about just out of the abundance of caution. I'm going to, if we have it up, I'm going to share my screen for just a second and let you guys see something that we, advertisement that we did last year. And we needed to run it by the bar just because we were, kind of curious as to what they would say about it. But I did a little social media thing where I asked people like if they could give us some insight into different things that that people say in the neighborhood because we wanted to connect with them. And so we came up with, we found out, people call the police 12 and all that kind of stuff. And ducking 12 is basically when you're riding without a license, and all that kind of stuff. So we came up with these advertisements like, okay, well, just out of the abundance of caution, we better go ahead and run this by the bar just to see, what they think about it. And true enough, what you see here, this advertisement you see here is not what we initially sent them. And the reason we had to end up kind of scaling it back to this is because the bar had some objections with the wording that we had on it initially. I thought it was ridiculous. And I think it stresses the need for there to be more diversity, but that's another topic for another day. But the overall point of me saying that is to echo what Ruby was saying about, out of the abundance of caution, go ahead and run things by the bar, because the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money on billboards or social media campaigns, and then you get a call from the bar telling you that you need to take it down. So that's my little story about running things by the bar.
May I, Chris?
I'm sorry, what was that, Ruby?
May I add something else?
Uh-huh.
So I'm real big on slogans and taglines. So my website is Ruby Handles Recs. And so what I wanted to go along with that was your rec deserve a check. But the bar again told me your rec deserves a check implies I'm guaranteeing that every rec will have a check attached. So they made me change it from your rec deserves a check to does your rec deserve a check? And so it's always vital, because had I printed that billboard up without their approval, I would have wasted my money. And of course I would have been devastated. So it's always wise just to run it by them, to have that okay before you start investing dollars in advertising.
Absolutely. We got another question from the gallery. Somebody asked, this is Leslie Ann Williams, what office management software does the panel suggest for a seamless online experience?
I started out with Clio, and it did the job. We currently use FileVine, and I was pleased with both. I think both get the job done. The reason we switched to FileVine was because it had some, it was friendly to personal injury practice as it relates to calculating settlement breakdowns and things of that nature. But I think both Clio and FileVine, which is what we've used, gets the job done.
Okay, you said that's FileVine?
FileVine, FileVine, FileVine.
Okay. All right, Leslie, I hope that answers your question. Anybody else got any input on office management software?
Well, I currently use MyCase, and I use it primarily still because it's what I used from the beginning, and I'm comfortable with it. They're constantly upgrading. Even like now, one of the features that I absolutely love is client. You can send the contract to the client and they can sign it electronically. And while that was good initially, we demanded that they have an option for the client to actually hand sign it. So I love that ability for them to be able to hand sign it. But yeah, MyCase is what I use right now. And I've heard about FileVine for personal injury lawyers. That may be an area I move to later, but right now I'm just going to stick with MyCase because it does everything that I need for now.
Okay.
And
thanks for sharing that, Ruby.
As far as my office, we use TrialWorks, and it's a great database to store all the inventory for the PI cases. I don't utilize all the functions like you're mentioning, April. I know they can do some paperless signing or electronic signings. We don't necessarily use that part of it, but I'm able to pull up case statuses on my phone. If I run into a client out and they want to know what's going on, I can literally pull it up from an app. And so it's just very convenient for me just being able to keep a grip on all the cases that we have.
Okay. All right. We're going to open up for questions now. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat box. While we're doing that, while we're waiting for you guys to submit your questions and everything, I'm going to give Rashida the floor for just a moment. Rashida, can you share with us some of the things that you think someone needs to identify before they start marketing? Things they need to know about themselves, identifying what their objectives are, things along those lines, and how you can help them reach those goals.
Yeah, so I think that the first thing I would tell you guys to do is just understand your voice, who you are, and get comfortable with that. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Some people don't like to share their lives. So it's important for you, if you're trying to be at the forefront and you want to win, you definitely have to put yourself out there a little bit more. But as far as your voice, come up with your slogans. I think Ruby said something about a slogan before. Come up with your slogan and be memorable, because I think when people can remember you, when they have that moment, they can recall you. And I think for attorneys, that is very, very important because, again, this is a very competitive market and you want to stand out in the crowd. Some other things that I would just recommend is taking a step back and understanding all the things that you need to be a successful attorney, but then also how to put yourself in the forefront. Social media marketing can be a monster. You may need someone to help guide you through the process because everybody don't have the opportunity to sit and plan social media and look at a social media calendar and be relevant and present with everything that goes on. And other things that I would just remind people to do is be visible and authentic. People relate to you when you're real. And that's why April, when people see pictures of you, they're like, oh, that's who she is. I remember her. I heard people say something about their social media pages versus their personal page. And it is always in my best practice is to have them separated. I think be personal on your personal page and guard your personal things. It is the internet. So when you say guard it, you do know that people still can find you, but guard your personal page versus what you put in your business page, because you are ultimately, you're a brand and you want people to recognize your brand and not necessarily what you do in your personal life. If you go shopping, people may not agree with that so much versus if you're showing you're going into the courtroom or you showing that you're having interactions with clients or you're showing community work. I think it's very important to separate your personal brand from what you actually do in your personal life.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's some really great advice, Rashida. Thanks for sharing that. That's really insightful. We've opened up the floor for comments. I don't really see any comments aside from Eric Guster, who's also on. Eric has said, the alphas are better than everybody, 06. That's the comment that we got. We would appreciate the question there, Eric, but thanks. And I know you got something you want to say, but I'm controlling this, so you're gonna be muted until the next. But also, y'all, Eric is gonna be doing part 2 of this. He and Nina Spear will be doing part 2 of social media. Of marketing your firm. They're gonna talk about it more from a media standpoint. Of course, we all know that we've seen Eric a ton all across the cable news stations, local stations, giving legal analysis, all of those things. So stay tuned for that part of this CLE as well. He's going to give us some really great information. So that's a plug for the second part of what we got going on here. I'll tell you what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and get ready to wrap it up here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask everybody to give their parting shot about one thing that you would recommend that everybody look at themselves before they start marketing, or just some of the things that you've experienced with your own experiences with marketing and how you've learned from those things. So I'll go ahead and start with April first. April, if you would, tell us your parting shot about marketing your firm and things that you've experienced. You gotta unmute, April.
Just kind of going back to what I said, I think you are your marketer. Like your life, the way that you live, the things that you do, that's marketing for your firm. Just make sure you continue to post things on social media. I see a question about word of mouth marketing. Word of mouth was the way that I believe I got started is, family. I have a kind of big family, and then my mom knows everybody. So she always tells people about what her daughter is doing. And so I've gotten a lot of clients just based off of word of mouth from family and friends. So that's definitely important. And then also back to the intake and the process, in order to continue, to everything to continue to flow, you have to market well, but then you also have to make sure that your process is seamless and that your clients are happy. And at the end of your representation, ask them to leave a review on Facebook, ask them to leave a review on Google and other areas so that other people can see that. Because what I've learned is, or what they say is that people, they will research and look maybe at 10 different things before they actually decide to hire you. And so you want to make sure that every channel that they're looking at has positive reviews and that people are saying everything good about you.
Thanks, April. Ruby, same question.
Okay, as I mentioned initially, I think it's very important for you to have a budget to market, to advertise. My biggest fear starting my own practice as a second career was that no one would know I was around. I would dry up and I would fail. So when people say they can't afford to market, I say you can't afford not to market. With social media being so accessible and being basically free, I think every young lawyer or lawyers in general, if you're on your own, you must market. That's the number one tip. Secondly, track your marketing dollars. Ask the clients, how did they hear of you? So you'll know what's working and what's not, so you can change the direction of those dollars. And thirdly, never stop marketing, no matter what. If you stop television, you know, pick up social media. If you stop social media, get on the radio. If you're not on the radio, get in a magazine, speak at a church. Always, always remember that you are your brand and you can never stop marketing. Look at, you know, some of the bigger firms that's been around for a while. They're always on TV. Find a firm to mimic, find a firm that you want to be a model like, so that you will be conscious and always be woke, because the community is watching. They have so many attorneys to choose and you want to stand out and be that brand. So always have a budget for marketing.
Absolutely. All right, Gerald, what's your parting shot?
Just that one of the greatest assets that a young attorney has is their current clientele, family and friends, and to make sure that you firmly market to those individuals and make sure clients have good experiences. You'll get many, many referrals from a happy client versus having somebody in the street talking bad about you from an unhappy client. And the reason they're unhappy doesn't have to be a real reason. As long as they're unhappy in their minds, you're a bad attorney. So just keep that in mind. And marketing to the masses, TV, radio, billboards, is great. But if you do that before you're ready, which honestly I think I did, you're going to lose money, because if you can't handle the calls when they come, you're not going to get the full benefit for your dollar. So if you're thinking about marketing on a mass level, go ahead and get your infrastructure straight. Make sure you got somebody to handle the calls. Make sure you've got proper follow-up protocols in place so that you get the full bang for your buck. And don't make the same mistake that I've made.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you to all the panelists for sharing. We really appreciate you guys. I want to end with Rashida Reese. Rashida, let everybody know how we can get in touch with you, because there are some people on here that I know are going to want to talk to you. So let everybody know how we can get in touch with you.
All right, so I do have something to add for my parting notes. Consistency is the key. I think Ruby said that best. Consistency. If you're going to market, just stay consistent. Whatever medium, continue to talk and let your voice be heard. You can get in contact with me. You can visit my website at www.rebirth.marketing, or you can reach out to us via phone 205-538-0717. Or you can send us an email at teamrmc@rebirth.marketing.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being here. One quick thing I want to make sure that everybody's clear about. We're going to end this particular session, so you will have to disconnect and reconnect to the next section, okay? That's the way the bar approved this CLE, so we have to do it two different ways. We're going to end with a parting video, and then I'll see everybody in about 5 minutes on the next CLE, okay? Chris Borelli here. Thank you once again for attending the Magic City Bar Association's Social Distancing CLE series. We hope that you got some great information. Be sure to fill out the evaluation form and attest that you attended the CLE virtually so that you can get credit with the State Bar. And if you're not a member already, go to www.magiccitybarassociation.org to join. Thanks and have a great day.